Thank you very much. Um, my topic is a blockchain-based collusive agreements in China and also analyze the sufficiency of the legislation in China. Before we start the topic, I would like to give a simple introduction about what exactly is blockchain. On this picture, the blockchain looks very complicated. Looks like a network, and it is a network. It's a P2P network. So when a person A wants to transfer money to person B, and without online wallet, without the third-party application, without the banks, you can actually make the transaction just peer to peer. And also, blockchain is also a distributed ledger, or you can simply call it a database. So because it provides functions, it records and store transactions and data, also sharing transaction data among on the blockchain. And there are some characteristics very important for the later legal analysis. First of all, is decentralized. It means on the blockchain, there's no single authorities will control your data. Also, if you want to make transaction, there's also no intermediaries or center to help you to make this transaction. And the next one is tamper evidence. Actually, is similar to tamper resistance. It basically means once the information or the data is being validated and stored on the blockchain, and it is in principle technically infeasible to delete it or modify it. First one, to simply understand that it just nobody knows. There's very famous sentence says, nobody knows, even your dog on the other side of the network. So, which also means your true identity in the real world will be protected by blockchain with a hash value. The last one is the transparency. It means the competitors or any users of the blockchain could check on each other's transaction and data. They're all visible to all the users. Before we analyze the Chinese legislation, it is very important to know the China's attitude regards the blockchain technologies development. It is negative or positive. I would say both, because in 2013, 2017, and 2018 and 2021, Chinese government actually published a series of documents and regulations on regulating the development of cryptocurrency based on blockchain technology, which people found maybe it's a signal that Chinese government want to prohibit this development of this blockchain technology. But on the other hand, from 2016, 2018 and 2023, the Chinese government also start to publish the annually white paper on blockchain technology, and also start to explore the blockchain standardization and scenarios in China. So, which I want to give a little summary, say China actually holds a negative stance on cryptocurrency development within the country. However, a positive stance on developing blockchain technology as a foundational infrastructure for the future digital economy. So from this point on, analyzing the Chinese legislation might be useful. So here are the two main problems that I found it could be challenging and that blockchain-based clearance could brought to our current legislation. The problem one is it's very difficult to identify the clearance subjects on the blockchain, because from the previous characteristics we found it's anonymous So nobody knows your real life identities. Although it's said it looks kind of like paradox, say blockchain is very transparent, so everybody can see the data. So the main point here is because blockchain technology actually offering this service saying hash value, which is actually kind of mathematical method to hide all your identity data under the Merkle tree. So you can only see the data on the surface, but on the roots, you can't really see because it's hashed. For the problem 2, it's actually on the blockchain when the collusive agreements on the blockchain with the smart contract, it actually can correct any division behaviors from the collusion, which means in real life, let's talk about the normal collusive agreements. Usually, the government expects that their basic trust from this collusion could one day collapse because they don't trust each other anymore, because the government offers some leniency programs, and so everybody wants to be treated on this collusion. But with smart contracts, you can't really make a division from the from this collusion. And rather to say current solution, I would actually say is kind of attempt to find any possibility, soft law or hard laws that we could solve the problem 1 and problem 2. In China, there are actually 3 legislations that could potentially solve the problem 1, which is very difficult to identify the subject's real identity. First one is Article 8 of the provisions on administration of blockchain information service, and it is the only one regulation actually named directly with blockchain. Under this provision, the blockchain information service providers are asked to offer or file all their users' real identity. Article 47 of the anti-monopoly law in China is also giving the power to the anti-monopoly agencies to review the suspicious colluders' real identity. And also in the Article 119 of the civil procedure laws in China is also give the individuals a right to file a lawsuit in court to protect their own interest from collusions. For the problem 2, of the preventing all the divisions from the collusion, for the previous research, we can see basically that leniency program actually apply the most among actually a lot of jurisdictions in US, EU, and China. In US, in a certain time frame, that over 90% of the collusion actually dissolved by the leniency program. In EU, there's 80%, and in China, because it applied quite late, widely used after 2019. So it also helped with solving 60% of the cartel cases. So we expect all this solution could potentially solve the problem that I mentioned before. But however, I found there are some practical problems with all the solutions. First of all, for the problem 1, the Article 8 saying all the providers, blockchain information providers, need to offer the real identity of their users. But there's one situation in reality is, what if these users at the same time also the providers? So they can actually hide their own real identities from the anti-monopoly agents. Then in practical, actually, this article won't be so useful in this regards. And Article 47 mentions yeah, the anti-monopoly agents could review the suspicious colluders' true identity, but because blockchain technology actually is with anonymous, we mentioned before, the Merkle tree actually has the real identities under the Merkle tree, and nobody really can know who are you. But if you don't know, actually, although they have the power to do it, then the blockchain actually is blocking it. The work would be the really real solution. For the last one, the article 119, also the same problem as the article 47. Even though you're granted having a right to file a lawsuit in court, but if you don't know the real identity of the defendants, you also can't really file a lawsuit to protect your own interest. So I would say this previous three solutions might not be enough. But of course, it doesn't mean that we have to make a new law or rules to specifically target on these issues, but we could develop more on the technology assistance to help us to solve these problems. Also, for the critical analysis for the solution of the problem 2, yes, leniency programs actually help to resolve 60% of the cartels in China, but here we go. The leniency program is working actually with breaking mutual trust among colluders. So that is basically what blockchain's main attractions. And a temporary resistance helps prevent any participant from deviating from the collusion, and actually it enhances the trust between all the colluders. So there's no reason for colluders to betray their collusions. And also for applying leniency programs, the one most important, actually very necessary requirement is the colluders have the timely cessation of the offense. So you have to stop your behavior, colluding behaviors. But because it's temporary resistance on the blockchain, which means you can't really withdraw from the smart contract made this collusion, and how can you stop harm the competition, which is, I find, is difficult. So in this sense, the leniency program is more difficult to be applied on colluders of the blockchain-based collusions. So I found the solution for the problem 2 also kind of insufficient. Yeah, so sum up, I found in China now there's no effective solutions for the problems that I found, but I haven't really found a real approach to solve the problems, maybe more technical directions. So yeah, thank you very much.
First on the list, Kenna, for a challenge.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you, Qihan, for your interesting presentation. I would like to ask that because in your presentation, time given like the anti-monopoly law in China to solve a problem. So my question is that if you want to use the anti-monopoly law, so what's the designated market here, and also who dominated the market? Because I didn't see that currently in China there is a blockchain technology that has actually become a leader undertakings and also holds the most of the market share. So I'd like to see that. So why you put this blockchain issues under the context of the anti-monopoly law? Thank you very much.
Thank you for a question. For the law that I use in my presentation for anti-monopoly law, actually is saying it just, or one article saying it offers the agents to have the power to review the suspicious colluders' real identity. So in this article, I found it could be applied to find out the real identities of the colluder. And also, my focus actually is on clearance. It's not on the dominant market. So that's a different approach. And yes, in China, there's no any big techs saying we're only offering blockchain technologies and as a big tech. So that's also the reason when I trying to find some real life cases related to my topic, like blockchain based clearance, I found it's very difficult. Found one or two in US and jurisdictions, but in a real life case, it's very rare in China and also the EU.
Thanks very much. Up to Matt for a contribution.
In your last data presentation, you're trying to figure out new ways, but hypothesis, I think, by contribution might be interesting to look at. I was wondering what extent you look at other regimes and how they approach the situation, especially, for example, anti-money laundering cases with partially most used in cryptocurrency. How maybe you can have a look at how they overcome some of the problems that you've identified here in their situations. I think there's much to find there, and they haven't done much order did those deals so blockchain, but I know it has been done in the visual, so maybe you can ask there.
Yeah, thank you. Yes, actually, this is just one chapter. Next chapter, I will look at in the EU jurisdictions. I wanted to include US jurisdiction, but then I found that everything is too broad, like too much information that I could not really answer everything. But yeah, it's a very good one. Thank you very much.
And finally, Stephanie, knowing that you are up next, so.
Thank you very much for the presentation. Visiting us, I have thought about analogy. How you like one populations that live there, here, and writing us really by law is not expression. You know, the share their step by step activities still, and I realized some information about the effects of blockchain in the Qihan Xu dilemma, and therefore latency at the secure is that.
Do we have questions and comments from the room? Please go ahead, Steph.
Yeah, thank you for your presentation. As a solution for problem one, you said that on the Article 47 of the Chinese anti-monopoly law, the anti-monopoly authority of China gets access to the data. And I found that very counterintuitive, as the goal of blockchain is like to be synonym and intended. And the Institute took that into account as another weakness of that statute. And as another question, just because I'm interested, what are the requirements for Article 47 to get the access to the data?
Thank you very much for your question. Yes, because for the, can I start with the second question?
Yeah.
I forgot. Yeah, for the Article 47, actually, it's in China that we don't have a procedure law specifically for the, how to say, the competition law. So we have the civil law procedure law, administrative procedure law, and also the criminal law one. So we do not have specific one for this purpose. So they actually giving the power to take actions once they think it's suspicious. So this kind of standard is quite, you can say it's very low, but it's case by case. It's not like they have a certain standard say when we can take measures. So I hope this can answer your question. And can you repeat the first question? Sorry.
Was actually granting a governmental authority access to data, which is protected by blockchain, is for me counterintuitive. As the goal for blockchain is to grant independency from the government.
Yeah. Yes, it's very good points, because that's the reason why I want to compare the approach from China and EU, because China actually is having a very direct approach regarding all the emerging technologies like blockchain or like AI or something. So they always want having a whole control of the market. So they always want to have all the resources from, for instance, the filing. They ask the providers to file all the data from them. Of course, it's like a paradox. If you want this blockchain technology to develop further, then you cannot say, hey, you have to give me all the access. But the government's also thinking maybe they can add nodes on blockchain as a supervision nodes, which is kind of also like you have to go through its, like you don't need to give all your data to the nodes, but the nodes as the part of the blockchain, it could have sometimes make the function to supervise some transactions or something. So they were trying to balance the innovation of the technology development, but also they want to have the market control.
Georgiana, you have a question?
Yes, he was a professor Salazar's like you. Well, my question was whether the collusion that is envisaged takes place exclusively on the blockchain or concerns actors that are exclusively active on the blockchain economy, or whether there's also some touch points with the real world, and whether the problem of detection, for instance, could be solved by detection in real world or real effects.
Yeah. It's a good question. In the very beginning of my research, I'm trying to find some real world cases to even make some empirical studies and case law studies. Then I found there's not so many real cases directly related to blockchain based collusions. So I found it very difficult. So now I actually trying to make it only on the theoretical parts. So maybe in the future, there will be some cases that you can use my theory and maybe to offer some insights or like inspirations on these problems in real life.
On that, you also have companies colluding about what's happening on blockchain, right? Such as exchanges colluding on Twitter.
Yeah.
There is a case in Qihan Xu and saying we all agree to take this cryptocurrency down because we don't like the person behind, right? Which is from the outside, as opposed to what you are doing, which is like from the inside of a blockchain, can it impact the real world if there is smart contract fusion? So maybe it's the outside coin. Wolf, you have a question.
Yeah, my question is more of a comment along similar lines. It would seem that the participants in this collusion need to know each other's identity in order to know whether they have common interests to begin with. So there would always be blockchain would be in parallel to some kind of behavior in the real world, if you like. So that would then be a point of entry for the normal competition or enforcement. And I cannot see how it would be different if you look at AI, for example, where collusion could emerge, where simply the AI could work out a collusive strategy by itself, and it doesn't need to be instructed to do that. So then the problem shifts to whether you should instruct it not to. But I think in the world of blockchain, it's quite different because it will have this parallel real world experience where you will be able to sort of fry open the system from an enforcement perspective. But at least that's what it appears to me.
Yes, actually, because in blockchain, we have public blockchain and also private blockchain. And the situation actually happens very often in private blockchains. So almost like everybody kind of like know each other. The companies know who you are. So also the validators of the original nodes of the private blockchain actually kind of also know your real identities. But for the public blockchain, maybe it's potentially could be challenging is the competitors actually could check on each other's pricing without any tacit communications. So that could make the less competition in the markets.
Yes, but to me it seems they would at least need to know each other's identity, and they would at least have to have common interests and to have some form of agreement about that, even though they execute it by means of the blockchain. Yeah. So that might still leak it with enough in terms of traditional antitrust tools to be able to have with this leverage.
Yeah,
that's what it seems like to be, but I mean, well.
No, it's correct.
But your problem to be made, right? Even though you identify the company, if you find they have smart contract for the collusion, then you can't scrape the smart contracts.
No, if you can force them to reveal their contracts.
Yes. And so then you would know that there is a collusion that you cannot stop unless you can write opposite smart contracts.
That's technical, yeah.
But indeed. All right. On that, thank you so very much again. Big round of applause.